ICICI Bank Commercial Banking present Businessworld International Business Awards. Celebration Partner, Teachers Origin. Process Advisor, PwC. Event Partner, FISME. Television Partner, NDTV Profit.
What surprised me after I came back to India 2 years ago is how little the people realize how significant it has been. When you look at the latest export strategy of the Ministry of Commerce, it mentions nothing about services. But just to give you an idea of what services exports are, let me just confine myself to IT services. IT services last year have hit $69 billion. And that is more than all of engineering exports combined. 70 billion compares to gems and jewelry or oil products, which are the common merchandise exports people talk about. That's only about 40 billion each. And the value added in IT services exports are of the order of 70% as opposed to less than 20% there. So you're talking about a huge one. But actually, I would say, let's forget about the volume. The real story of India's service export is the growth and sophistication of export. Those of you who might have looked at the IMF's latest report on India, just released a couple of weeks ago, the only positive point they raise about structural transformation in India has to do with the growth and sophistication of service export. I don't have the time to go into technicalities of it, but let me just tell you, in terms of volume, you know that India's service exports, IT exports and service export have grown faster than China's manufacturing exports in the first decade of the aughties of this century. I will go next to say that the point, and here I disagree with Professor Hoda, the story of India's service exports and of China's manufactured exports is actually the story of innovation. The innovation is incremental innovation, and that is, as people have known about technology development over the last 30, 50 years, beta changes are much more significant for productivity growth and economic welfare than alpha changes. And that is what is explaining the rapid growth and insertion. More in the case of manufacturing, it's China, but in the case of services, it's India. If you want to know about incremental, we can talk more in the questions and answers. Incremental innovation, the third point I'd like to say, is all about learning. Many of you have learned about learning by doing. That's what businesses do well. And that is why business innovation tends to be more economically significant than many other sort of state-driven one. But there's learning by doing. More important often is learning by using. And even more is learning by exporting and learning by supplying. If you look at the story of, for example, an area that is considered one of the big success stories of China and perhaps could have been for India in the case of product, mobile handsets. Think about what have been the successful strategies there. Since I have very little time, I will just say, people say, well, services don't have much capital requirement, don't have much barriers to entry. Why can't others do it as well as India? And here I have a bunch of non-traditional explanations. We have, of course, a trained manpower, but we actually know that overall, for the size of India's economy and the size of our population, our trained manpower is actually not that much. But nonetheless, there has been a major contribution by, I would say, even the Nehruvian era, or when the CSIR labs and institutions were established. Because the story of innovation all around, in the end, comes down to creativity and technical expertise of manpower. In this respect, I would also say a big advantage India has, and why I remain bullish, is our multicultural framework and the way our society is organized. Innovation is all about flow of information and ideas, and that we are well prepared to do, and if only we can make some of it a little better organized. And lastly, another third point for you to think about is the big role that the Indian diaspora has played in this. And again, these are 3 or 4 areas which have certainly played a big role. Going forward, whether it can play the same role is yet to be seen. I would just like, since I don't have too much time, I'd just like to point out 3 or 4 other areas that why I believe India has a lot of opportunity, but yet also challenges. One is the role of software. And when I say software, I don't necessarily mean only computer code, but it certainly, that is one part of it. It epitomizes a particular aspect of innovation. Think about Japan. In the 90s, who did you think had the best, was the leader in IT innovation? Everybody talked about Japan all over the world. What happened in the first decade of the 2000s? Japan sort of went off the radar screen. Why did that happen? Because as studies have shown, that is the decade in which software intensity of IT innovation increased dramatically. And that's where India played a role in actually helping a lot of others, such as the United States, play. Two other points I'd just like to point out. When we talk about innovation is the role of foreign direct investment. People have talked about make or buy. When you produce a good, do you make it or you buy it? Technology, unfortunately, that dichotomy does not hold. In technology, it's a question of importing technology is only useful when you have the absorptive capacity and you have your own technological prowess. We can talk more about it. Lastly, a thing that we are talking a lot about in the case of China, role of Chinese imports, is it deindustrializing the rest of the world? Let me just point out, almost all the economic studies that have shown, that are present show that even for countries such as India, technological inputs, whether they come from China or imports, have actually been beneficial.